It's your girl Cecilia G, and we're back today with another video or live. So this is the first time I'm going on live here on YouTube, but we're trying new things out. It's been a minute since I've given y'all some long form content because editing just be a lot. I'm recording, but I need to get the content out to y'all. But for now, I thought since it is wash day, I might as well come on here and chit chat with y'all in the meantime. So let's give y'all just a little update on where my hair has been, what we're coming from, and what we're about to do. So I did like a little mini twist sort of style on my hair at the beginning of October. It was like flat twist in the front or like crisscross sort of situation, rubber band halfway through my head, and then mini twist in the back. I had that in for October. I refreshed it. I washed it and refreshed it in the twist sometime in November, maybe like halfway through November. And now it is the end of December. And I took the twist out like 2 weeks ago thinking that I was going to wash it. I liked how it looked, so I kept it in for that week. And then I got lazy and didn't wash it for the next week. So now it's time to wash it. I have an event tonight that I'm going to. So that's why I'm doing my hair at such a weird time of the day. It's 3:16 a.m. But my hair needs to get done. And if you're a natural hair girl, you know, like I was thinking, okay, maybe I could go to sleep and then wake up in the morning and do it. But that's what I said I was going to do yesterday. And it didn't happen. So we're going to do it now. I need to detangle first. I like to do my wash day out of the shower just because it takes so long. And I'm not trying to be standing up and my whole body wet for no reason. So I'm going to detangle first. We're using some warm water in a spray bottle. Y'all can kind of like see how it's warm. And then I'm using some conditioner. Basically, I don't even know if this is called like a pre-poo or whatever, but I'm using the conditioner to help me detangle prior to shampooing and all of that. Can I really recommend this Aussie Miracle Moist? I don't really know. This would be like, I think my second time using this to detangle, and it's all right. I would say the conditioner that I was using before this was a little better, and I think that one was from L'Oreal. I honestly cannot remember what the name is because it was a random purchase from Target. It was on sale, but I really liked it. It was like a sort of pink or peach colored, no, not pink, I'll say orange or peach colored bottle with a pink top, hot pink top from L'Oreal. I really love the slip on that one in comparison to this one, but I tried Aussie out because all the natural hair girls was talking about Aussie. I don't know if I just didn't get the right one, but it's okay. But I like the L'Oreal one a little better. Maybe I just have to find like a different type of Aussie conditioner to use, and maybe that one would be better. So I need to section my hair, but before I do that, I'm going to put some of this conditioner actually in this warm water so that as I'm spraying it, some of that conditioner can already set in before I start going through with this and raking it through my hair. So like no real rhyme or reason, I'm just putting a few pumps in there. Nothing too crazy because of course I'm going to go in with like more conditioner and product on top of all of this. Shake that up just to combine it at least a little bit. It's not going to be like perfect, but just a little bit. And then I typically finger detangle, but since I've had these twists and all that sort of stuff in for forever, I probably will go ahead and use my trusty wide tooth comb after finger detangling. And then I've heard a lot about the Unbrush, and I haven't purchased it because finger detangling and all that has worked, and my like wide tooth comb brush, whatever, has worked for me up until now, and I love it. But with all the clearance and sales and things going on right now, I was able to get this Unbrush for like $1.50. So I was like, I might as well pick it up and try it today and see how I like it. If I don't like it, I only spend $1 on it compared to, I think originally this was like $12. So yeah, but this is one of the mini ones. I need to go get a towel because I forgot to get that, and I don't want to get super wet. That's the whole point of not doing this in the shower, is I don't want to be wet for no reason. So let me go get a towel, and then we're going to take this off so I can show y'all where we're coming from, and then we'll section it. So give me a second. Okay, I got a towel. Let me turn it on. I'm just going to put the towel around my shoulders. And then I'm going to take one of my clips. Well, let me actually take a black one. And I just like to clip it together so it doesn't like move or fall off while I'm doing my hair. Just a little hack that I use. So let me show y'all what we working with. Let me show y'all what we working with. It's crazy. I will say my hair looks like this because it just came out of a high puff. I used my puff cuff. My hair was in a high puff for a few days now. Maybe like 5-ish or so days my hair has been in a high puff. So that's why it looks so crazy. For wash day, when I am sectioning off my hair, I like to start off with going through the middle. So let's start that way first. If y'all see this little black thing right here, it's my mirror. I'm trying to see everything. Although I will say, when you're doing wash day and sectioning your hair, it really don't matter for real what sections you're putting it in, but this is just how I like to do it. And I'm actually gonna spray a little bit of this because all my natural hair girlies should know you shouldn't work on like bone dry hair unless you're like, that's like asking for breakage. So just spraying a little bit, not too much, not too much. I said it doesn't have to be perfect for me. I'm just trying to get those quadrants, especially with how I plan on styling my hair. I don't need like perfect sections or whatever. So I'm not gonna harp too much on making sure that anything is straight. We just want to get things in the right ballpark. Oh, this back of my hair is giving me some troubles, which it usually doesn't, but I think it's because it's the most coily part of my hair right now. Okay, so I kind of have it in 2 halves. I'm just gonna sort of clip this part off now. And now I'm going to section off this right side of my head. I'm gonna start off with cutting this one big section into 2 once again. I'm gonna do a little bit more spraying to it. Once again, no rhyme or reason as to where the half is or anything like that. Just making it happen. Truly just making it happen. Alright. And now, from here, I gotta decide how I want to split up the rest of my hair, or this back quadrant. So I start off with like 4 sections basically. And then I decide how much smaller I want to get from there depending on what struggles and tangles I think my hair is going to be in. I feel like I want to split this up into 4. So let's go ahead and split this into 2 again. Or I want to split this small section into 4. So I'm going to split it in half once more. Half going from side to side. Yeah, I like that. Although like this part might seem a little smaller of a section than this part, I split it up that way only because as you get to the middle of my head, that's the harder detangling tends to get, and the more tender-headed my hair can be compared to the back of my head. Like the very back of my hair and curls, those are looser, so it tends to like be able to detangle a little faster, a little better, a little easier. So now I'm splitting this into 2, going from up to down. And then I'm going to start with the inside section first. Whew, it's been so long since I washed my hair. I'm just like, the process of having to do this is so much. But yes, so here is the first section that we are going to be working with. I'm going to spray and really try to get it like fully saturated. We're not going for like super soaking, but pretty soaked is what we're going for. Okay. And oh my gosh, look at my curls. Curls for the girls. Oh my gosh. That's the one thing I will say, like, no matter how hard it may get to have to take care of my natural hair myself, I really do love the process of seeing my hair go from one state to another state, from like dry to wet, wet to dry, and just seeing my curls and all of that. And I feel like in the time when I was, saying, oh, this is self-care and investing in taking myself to a hair salon, even though I love the hairstylist that I was going to. And I told her I'm going to be back in that chair next year. But like when you go to a hairstylist, you don't really get the joy of being able to see your hair through all those processes because, of course, like you're not doing it. You're not sitting in front of a mirror being able to see every single last thing. But when I'm doing it myself, especially since I don't do it in the shower and I usually sit in front of a mirror, I'm able to like see it go through all of its processes. And I really love that. Like seeing how it reacts to different products. It's truly one of my favorite things of doing my hair. And no matter how many times I might complain about how long and drawn out wash day could be, or how my hair doesn't respond to certain products the way I want it to, I'll always love like just seeing my hair through all of its stages. But yeah, so I don't do anything special. I just add the conditioner in and then I try to work through all the kinks and coils. Since I got this unbrushed, I'm going to try that after doing some of this detangling first. And I have my hair cutting shears near to me as well. I will say that's one thing, since not going to a hairstylist. This whole year, I haven't gone to like someone, a natural hairstylist who has taken care of my natural hair, washed it, trimmed it, anything like that. I keep some hair cutting shears nearby because when I see like single strand knots, or if I feel like my ends are like looking crazy, I just snip it. I don't even think twice about it. I just snip it. I would rather snip it now than sit and wait and wait and wait just because I'm not in somebody's chair. No, just get it over with. But I am excited to get back in the chair. I know I'll be getting my hair done at least once by my hairstylist this year. And I'm excited to see what she says and get like a professional trim and all of that. Y'all see my curls? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Another thing that I'm kind of excited to see is how much shedding I'm gonna have. Cause like I said, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. Let me help this out just a little bit and add some more water to it. Let me give it a fair shot. Let me give it a fair shot. It's been a minute since I've detangled anything other than my hands or a wide tooth comb. I will say that. I have used other like detangling type of brushes in the past, like when I was in high school, but I don't think I've used any detangling sort of brush outside of my hands and a wide tooth comb since high school. Okay. I'm not mad at it. So good so far. And it does look like it is doing a good job of detangling. Now, I will say I won't get my hopes up because I told y'all earlier, the back of my head is the easiest part when it comes to detangling or anything like that because it has looser, it has a looser curl pattern, curl texture, whatever, compared to the rest of my head. But yes, so after I get like a good detangler on it, on a section, when I feel like, okay, I can run my hands through it and glide through it really well, I just go and two-strand twist it. Depending on the day, sometimes I might braid it, but I don't really know how I feel about washing my hair in braids. I've done it a few times because I've noticed that when I wash my hair in braids, it doesn't unravel as much as doing it in twist. But I feel like with it being in a braid, it takes longer for the product to actually wash out of the hair. And we're not trying to prolong wash day any longer than it really has to be. It's already a long process. But yeah, so this is one section. I'm just gonna do this to the rest of my hair. While I'm doing this, since we're on live with it, I think I'm going to listen to an audiobook. Typically when I wash my hair, I watch YouTube. I try to get caught up on all of my favorites influencers and people that I subscribe to because I don't really take a whole bunch of time to watch outside of like my morning and nighttime routines, which don't take that long. So washing my hair, wash days, whenever I'm doing my hair myself and I know I'm going to be sitting down for hours, I typically like to watch my YouTubers get caught up, especially now that everybody has posted all their Vlogmas stuff. So, you know, there's a bunch of videos that I have to get caught up on. But recently, my friend put me onto the joys of having a library card and the joys of like what you can do with a library card. I've had one growing up when I was younger, and I loved going to the library for physical books. But once I grew up, I realized that I kind of like having my own personal copy of stuff. So then I turned to like, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Target girl as far as reading books. But I'm getting to that point in my life where people are recommending me books to read, and I really want to read it, but I can only read but so much due to my work schedule and just life schedule with going to the gym and all that sort of stuff. There's only but so many hours in a day to sit down and actually read a book. So I'm like, I want to still gain the knowledge that these people are telling me that are in these books, but there's only but so much time for me to read all these 50 million books that people are recommending me. So I wanted to get into audiobooks, and I was going back and forth in between like, okay, what should I do to get audiobooks? At first, of course, I looked into Audible because that's the big thing that I know of as far as audiobooks. But I don't know. Y'all gonna have to explain it to me if any of y'all use Audible on here. But I don't like the idea of I have to pay for a subscription for Audible, right? Which is supposed to be for audiobooks. It's not just like, okay, here's a book, Kevin, or whatever, and you can read books and all like a Nook sort of situation. It's not like that, or like a Kindle situation. It's not like that. Audible is there for audiobooks. So I didn't understand the fact of like, why do I have to, on top of purchasing a subscription for Audible, which is not like it's like $5, $3 or whatever. These are, it's like 10, I don't know what it is. I can't remember. But it's up there in cost, and you're telling me that on top of the subscription for Audible, I also have to purchase the book, like the regular cost of the book, as if it was just a physical book. That didn't make sense to me. As someone coming from reading physical books, I'm like, if I'm just gonna pay the cost of the book, I would rather just buy the physical book. That's just me personally, especially because I do actually like physical books. I feel like I pay attention a little bit more with all of that. And that was the other part. I didn't want to pay for Audible and not know how it was going to work for me, because I do physical books because I feel like I retain the information a little better. I actually pay attention as opposed to what I thought for audiobooks. I thought I wouldn't really pay attention, and my mind will go off into La La Land or whatever. Um, and then I saw, okay, you could do it on Spotify. So I was like, okay, I can get me a Spotify subscription, so I don't have to listen to ads or whatever, and I can also read audio or listen to audiobooks. Um, I'm like, okay, I could do that for sure. And then I looked into it, and apparently Spotify has like a limit, an hourly limit on how much books you can listen to within a certain time frame. And then you have to wait until the next time frame before you can read more books or listen to more books. And that didn't make sense to me either, because I'm like, at first I was like, okay, maybe I can get over that part of it, like maybe it doesn't really matter, or maybe I would only listen to but so much anyway, so that little limit won't matter. But I asked my friends, because I know some of my friends already have Spotify premium accounts. So I'm just asked them, like, what are y'all's takes on this? Have y'all used it? What do y'all think about it? And they were like, yeah, it doesn't really make sense for real, for real. They don't really use it. Like, they've tried it, but only because they already had the subscription. They don't know if they would purchase the subscription for the purpose of reading audiobooks. And while we were in that discussion, one of my friends was like, why don't you try getting a library card? Like, you can get audiobooks with the library card. And I was like, I heard somebody say this on TikTok or whatever before, but I forgot, like, I never actually tried it out myself. I'm trying to figure out how I want to separate this section. um but I was like, yeah, I never tried it myself. And she was like, yeah, you should try that out. The next week, literally, I went to the library and got me a library card. I learned all the things you could do library card. Mind you, I've been in the library recently to like edit and stuff like that. But I just didn't know the extent to like how much you can do with the library card outside of just loaning physical books or DVDs or whatever. My understanding of a library outside of my grade school understanding was just not there. I didn't know the advancements that have taken place in the library since, you know? So since then, I got the Libby app. I got my library card not too long ago, and then I got the Libby app. And I just finished my first audiobook literally like a few days ago. It wasn't that long ago. I read, let me see what it was. It's not showing up on here for some reason, but I read a book by Jasmine Guillory. Let me just try to look it up then. Oh, wait, do I have a story graph on here? No, I don't. But let's Google it. We got time anyway. Jasmine Guillory books. Drunk on Love. That's what that was the first audiobook that I listened to on Libby. And baby, am I hooked? I love that book. Like it was, oh, I see it now. It was a really good book. It at times I will say it was a bit much for my ears. At times it was a bit much for my ears. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But it was a good way to get me into the land of audiobooks, and exactly what I thought would happen at the beginning. There were a lot of times when I had to rewind because I would hear something like, oh my gosh, that was so good. But I wasn't listening because my head was in La La Land and I was thinking about what I'm going to eat and where I'm going and this is that and the third. So it took some time for me to train my brain on how to listen and pay attention even when there's nothing going on in front of my face. Like, you know, when you're having a conversation with someone, you give them eye contact and all that sort of stuff, so you actually are paying attention to what they're saying. When you're in class, like you're tracking the speaker, whatever the case may be, there's something visual going on. But with an audiobook, you really have to tap in and truly listen to what's being said so you don't miss something. So there were so many times when I had to rewind and I had to tell myself, like, girl, listen, like, just listen. Shut your brain off for a second and just listen. But I really loved it. I ended up finishing it in like a week, I think. And I only listened to the book while I was driving in the car to and from going to different places. So instead of like listening to music or whatever, I was just listening to the audiobook, which I didn't know how that would go at first. I thought it would make me very tired and sleepy instead of like music that would like keep my energy up, but it wasn't bad. It was pretty on par with how music is for me. Um, so that part wasn't bad about it. And then I also listened to it while like traveling on planes and stuff. I loved it. And I think it also trained me to like be a little more creative in my mind, like to the point where, like, you know, when you're reading a book, even though it was the same thing, but like being able to visualize what's going on, like I had character personas of people in my head And it might also be a testament to the actual author herself and how descriptive she was with different things. But I promise you, I had scenes and settings and places in my head of everything that was happening. I could tell you what the winery looked like in my head, what old girl's house looked like, what the different restaurants that they went to looked like, everything. So ever since then, I started reading this or listening to this other book by Jasmine Guillory called By the Book. It says I'm 43% into it. I started this on Saturday, and it is currently Tuesday early morning or Monday night, whatever you would like to call it. So yeah, I'm gonna listen to some of this book while we do this hair. I will say, for this book compared to the last book, the first book kind of got like straight into it. Really, it caught your attention early on, and you kind of already knew like where it was gonna go. In this book, you kind of also know where it's gonna go. However, I would detail this a slow burn book. Like, I'm 43% of the way in, and we're just now getting to it. Like, and it hasn't happened yet, but I think like we're just about to get into the juicy stuff, the tea, all of that. So I think I want to listen to some of this audiobook instead of watching my typical YouTube videos while I do my hair tonight, because I don't know, audiobooks have been my thing as of the recent. Like, I'd be so excited just to get in the car. Sometimes I'll make it to my destination and still be like, let me just sit in the car. Not to sit in the car because I gotta make sure I have my shopping list together, but because like, no, I need to hear where this is going first before I get in the car. And then I'd be so excited to leave the store just so I could get back in the car. I don't sit and wait to turn the car on anymore while I'm checking through my receipt. No, I'm turning the car on as soon as I get in there, because I've got to listen to I got to get back to the book ASAP. So after I twist up this section, we'll get into this book called By the Book by Jasmine Guillory. I will say, just like another little update on how I'm feeling using this unbrush. I don't know, maybe I was sleeping on it. I wasn't really fully paying attention, and I don't follow too many hair influencers really. So I haven't heard too much from people about this unbrush, but I have seen it. But the people that I saw using it were people who have looser curl patterns than me, who are not in the type 4 hair range at all. Or if they are in the type 4 hair range, they have like looser curl patterns where they're like 4A or 4B. So I just thought like, yeah, no, that's definitely not going to work on my hair at all. But it's been gliding through so far. So I don't know what the technology is concerning this brush, but it's good, and I'm kind of sad I've been sleeping on it, because I could have been I could have been using this to make detangling go by a little faster, because usually this stuff will take me forever. Granted, it's still taking me a hot second because we like 30 minutes in and we only done got through 3 sections. But let me wipe my hair. Not wipe my hair. Let me wipe my hands on this section. And let's start this book. So once again, we are going to be listening to By the Book, Jasmine Guillory. Like I said, we're 43% of the way in. It says there's 10 hours. We're 43% of the way in. So y'all be able to see my live reactions as it gets to like what I said, the juicy part of this book. So yeah, let's get into it.
Had faded. It came back when he saw her looking at him. Sure, let's do that, he said. Beau absolutely didn't want to do that. She could tell. There'd hardly been anyone around at the beach. But at a crowded happy hour, people would recognize him. Right. She'd sort of forgotten he was famous. Or, she said, we could get some really good takeout and an indulgent dessert to eat at home, like ice cream and hot fudge or something. That might be better for now, since I would sort of like a hot shower after being thrown into the ice-cold Pacific Ocean numerous times. I'm sure Michaela left a ton of food in the fridge for us for the weekend, but Bo brushed that aside. That'll just mean she'll have less food to cook for us next week. There's a great ice cream place in town. Why don't we go pick some up and order dinner when we get home? That sounded fantastic, actually. And it sounded even better a few seconds later when Bo turned onto the main street and she saw the rows of bars packed with people. She wasn't exactly in the mood for a crowded happy hour either. Perfect, she said. I'm thinking maybe Thai or sushi. But then, thinking about happy hour made me think about bar snacks. So now I'm obviously thinking about mozzarella sticks and buffalo wings. Bo stopped at a light and turned to her with a grin. How about all those things? One good thing about Bo was that she never felt self-conscious around him about how much she loved food. Maybe because he clearly loved it as much as she did. Are you just saying that because you're as hungry as I am right now? He nodded. Probably. Being in the water does that to you. I looked up why once. Something about your body temperature versus the cold water, blah, blah, blah. I was just satisfied that it wasn't only my imagination that I was so starving after swimming. Anyway, I hope that explains why I'm about to buy 6 pints of ice cream. Please don't tell me we already have some in the freezer. I know. And don't care. Like she would ever argue with someone about how much ice cream to buy. As long as one of the flavors is cookies and cream, I don't care what else you get. He shook his head. No, that's not fair. You can't make me make all the ice cream decisions on my own. You already know I'm indecisive and difficult. I'll hold up the line forever. You have to help. Izzy rolled her eyes. Fine, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'll vote against any ice cream with marshmallows in it. Bo narrowed his eyes at her. What's your problem with marshmallows? Start looking for a parking spot. Izzy scanned the street around them. They're only good melted. Rice Krispie treats? Great. Put a stick in one, poke it in a fire? Excellent. But that's it. I don't even like them in hot chocolate. They just dilute the chocolate flavor. And especially, never in ice cream. They're just hard little frozen pucks. She pointed. There, at the corner. Bo flipped on his blinker. I have many points to argue with you on everything you just said, but you found us a parking space less than a block away. So I'll let you have this one. We will eliminate all ice creams with marshmallows in them from our decision matrix. They walked toward the ice cream store, where there were already a bunch of people in line. She could feel Bo tense up next to her and turn to him to say they could go somewhere else, but he just clenched his jaw and kept walking. So she followed him. At first, when they got in line, Izzy felt self-conscious, standing there in a thin cotton dress over a damp bathing suit, especially standing there next to Bo. Would people recognize him and then wonder what he was doing there with her when he always dated people who were tall and willowy and mostly blonde? Not that this was a date, but still. As she looked at the people who walked by, she worried less. Lots of other people wore swimsuits under dresses, or just swimsuit tops over shorts, and no one in this entire city seemed to own shoes other than flip-flops, Birkenstocks, or sneakers. No one paid her, or Bo, the slightest attention. Bo took a step closer to her and bent down to whisper in her ear. Okay, Izzy, can you do something for me? She could feel his breath against the hairs on the back of her neck. She shivered. She was probably just getting chilly, what with the wet swimsuit and the ocean air. Depends on what it is, she said. He sighed. I should have known you would answer like that. Okay, don't make any sudden moves, but I need someone else to see this guy at the end of the line. Izzy turned very slowly and looked at the back of the line. Her eyes widened, but she didn't say anything. She looked around for a few more seconds, trying to be casual, then turned to face Bo. His eyes were full of laughter. Okay, she said. I could have handled the parrots on his shirt. This is California, after all. Even the parrots on his shorts. They're a little matchy-matchy, but fine. But, she swallowed. I wasn't prepared for the live parrot on his shoulder. Is he going to bring that into the ice cream store with him? Beau's face crumpled. I was trying to hold it together, he said. But you just made me picture him standing there, asking for ice cream samples, with the parrot on his shoulder. And Izzy started giggling. Then Beau did. Then they were both laughing helplessly in line. She turned away from him to look in the other direction in the hope that it would make one or both of them recover. But they both just laughed harder. She almost leaned back against him, but stopped herself. That's not what this was. Finally, they got to the front of the line. They decided on their ice cream flavors much more quickly than Izzy would have predicted.
This first
caramel brownie,
section is done. So I'm
cookies
gonna
and
go to
cream,
this top
coffee,
section.
triple chocolate, lemon and marionberry, and vanilla bean.
And I'm gonna do
Loaded
the
down
same
with ice
thing
cream, hot fudge, and
and
raspberry
break
sauce,
this into
they
4
walked back to
sections.
the car. Bye, Parrot Man, Izzy said as soon as they were out of earshot. I'll never forget you. Beau laughed so hard at that, he could barely start the car. On the way back to the house, Izzy Googled the name of the Thai restaurant Beau told her he liked. I've probably had half their menu. The only thing I don't like from that place is the desserts. When I put in a big order, they always send me this strange rice pudding thing as like a bonus or something. I'm weird about stuff like that. I hate any kind of pudding. Izzy turned to stare at him. So do I, she said. I hate all pudding. Anything with that jiggling texture. I just can't handle it. Oh, that's why Michaela had laughed on her first day. Really? Beau laughed. No one else ever understands this. They're always like, how do you like chocolate ice cream and not chocolate pudding? They're the same ingredients. Just because they have the same ingredients doesn't mean they're the same thing. Izzy nodded. People do that to me too. They get all shocked that I don't like creme brulee. Once you get through the crunchy topping, it's just wobbly grossness in a spoon. When they got back to the house, Izzy turned to go up the staircase. I'll put the ice cream away and order the food, Beau said. Just come down to the TV room whenever you're ready. She nodded and ran up the stairs, but Beau stopped her when she was halfway up. Wait, Izzy! We didn't decide what to order. She turned around. I trust you. Order all the good stuff. She started back up the stairs and then turned around again. You were right. We needed a break today. I needed a break today. It was a tough work week and, well, thanks for suggesting it. And for the surfing lesson. He looked up at her, a smile on his face. You're welcome. And thank you. I hadn't gone surfing in a while. It felt really good.
Oh.
They smiled at each other, and then Izzy walked very slowly up the stairs.
And then I'm gonna cut
Her
this
legs
into
hurt too? Why did her legs hurt this much? After they were settled in the TV room, in comfortable clothes, with wine in front of them, and with more Thai food than Izzy had ever seen in one place in her life, Beau nudged her. You said it was a tough work week. Do you want to talk about it? You seemed kind of stressed in the library earlier. Izzy took a sip of wine and thought about that. Surfing and being outside had definitely calmed her down from how upset she'd been earlier, but she was still angry. It's just, there's this guy, Gavin, who I work with, she said. He's always been supportive of me, at least I thought so. But yesterday, after work, my friend Priya told me she'd overheard him talking to Marta. He said he was concerned about me being here, that I wasn't up for working with you, that she should have me come back. He what?
Same
she turned to
things.
look at Beau, who had that
Water
rage
with
in
some
his face she
conditioner
remembered
in
so clearly
first.
from her first week here. Yeah, that's what I said. She reached for a spring roll. He told me that first week he thought someone with more experience should be here, and that Marta agreed. But I didn't realize he was still
Trying to get
lobbying
through
to
some
get
of
me sent
those
back.
first little
I'm just so mad about it. Of course you're
tangles.
mad, Bo said. I'm mad too.
Nothing crazy,
She
but
was
just like trying to work
unreasonably
that
pleased at how
water
angry he was
in
on her behalf.
first.
It actually
Not
made her less
necessarily
mad, seeing
detangling.
how mad Bo was.
I'm gonna do a little more
Like,
spray.
I've had enough problems with Marta. I don't know why Gavin is undermining me like this. Especially when it feels like you and I are making some progress, he finished. Yeah, we are.
And then I'm
Don't
gonna
let
go
that
in with
asshole get
one
to you.
pump of
Sounds like he's trying to
the
sabotage
Aussie
you with your
Miracle
boss.
Moist
She
Conditioner.
shook her head. No, I'm sure that's not it. Gavin has always been... She thought about that. She didn't think Gavin was trying to sabotage her exactly, but it did feel shitty that he would try to take this away from her and go behind her back to do it. Why would he do something like that? I'll email Marta, Bo said. I'm not ready to send her anything I've written yet. Just the thought of sending Marta anything terrifies me, but I'll tell her things are going well. Will that help? Oh no. She shouldn't have complained to Bo about this. Now he would think she'd done it to get him to advocate for her.
Look at those curls.
You don't have to do that, she said. I'm sorry, I
Oh
sort
my
of
gosh.
forgot that.
Like I said, the joys
Anyway,
of doing your
I
hair
didn't tell you
yourself.
that
You're able
because
to
I
like
wanted your help.
truly
Bo
fall in
poured her
love
more
with
wine.
it.
I know you didn't. I'm the one who asked, remember? I won't email Marta if you don't want me to. I just don't want that jerk to win. He sat up. How's this? I'll only say something to Marta about you if she asks, or if she tries to make you go back early. Does that work? It felt really nice that he had her back. Yeah, it does. Thanks. It wasn't until they'd moved on to the ice cream that she said what she'd been waiting hours to say. So, about your name.
So much.
Bo put his bowl of ice cream down and
shitted hair.
glared at her. I
But
thought
rightfully
you forgot
so.
about
It's
that.
been in
She let her grin
since
spread across her
October
face. I was just
with
biding
no
my
thorough
time.
wash.
You promised to tell me. He picked his bowl up with a huff, but she could tell he was smiling. I guess I did. He took a scoop of ice cream. Okay. My name is actually James Thomas, after my dad and my grandfather. My mom's father, Thomas Russell. This used to be his house, his and my grandmother's. Izzy had known his grandfather's name, but only because it was written in some of the books that she'd borrowed from the library and brought up to her room. But Bo had only ever talked about his family that one time, and this was definitely the first time he had ever even mentioned his mom. She was learning more about him today than she had in the entire time she'd been here. Anyway, he said, my dad gave me the nickname Bo when I was a baby. He read it in a book, I guess, and it just sort of stuck. There was clearly a lot more behind what he'd said about his dad, his mom, why he was here in his grandparents' house, maybe even about why he'd struggled so much with his book. But Izzy didn't think now was the time to ask about any of those things. Well, I like Bo, she said. It makes you sound like a soap opera hero or a fairy tale prince or something. He laughed and... was he blushing? Oh, yeah. Obviously, two things I aspire to be.
Okay.
Thanks for that. At the end of the night, Izzy stood up very, very slowly. Oh, my entire body hurts. I'm gonna get you back for this. Bo chuckled as he piled their dishes on the tray. I'm gonna warn you right now, getting out of bed tomorrow morning will be rough. She reached for the empty wine bottle and winced. She didn't even know her abs could hurt like this. Thanks for telling me this now. At least I don't have to get up before 6 a.m. like on a weekday. They walked to the kitchen and loaded the dishwasher together, like they always did now. She took a step toward the fridge to grab a can of seltzer to take upstairs with her. But either because she was so sore her legs didn't quite work, or she was a little tipsy, or some combination, she tripped right into Bo, who caught her and held on. His chest was so broad, so warm. It was nice to rest her head here,
Okay, Miss
Just for
Girl.
a second. His arms were strong, but gentle. It felt so good to have them around her, his hands resting there on her back. She could feel them through her thin tank top. She'd tried all day to ignore the way she reacted to him, but now the little moments from the day flooded back to her. When he'd put his hands on her shoulders on the beach, when he'd touched her hand just for a second in the water, when she'd felt his breath on her neck and the warmth from his body in line at the ice cream shop. Now she faced what she'd tried to look away from all day. She'd wanted those moments to last longer. She could feel his heart beating against her ear. Or was it her own? And then he dropped his arms. Izzy.
Ooh.
No, that's not what this was.
Ooh.
He wasn't interested in her like that. Of course he wasn't.
Hold
She wasn't
up.
interested in him like that either. This was work.
I think it's about to get
Remember?
good.
She didn't even like him. Remember?
Or so you
Oh, I'm
thought.
so sore. I can barely stand up. She took a step back toward the kitchen door. I should go to bed while I can still make it up the stairs. She turned to leave the kitchen, like normal, like she always did at the end of the night. This was just a normal night. That's all. Good night, Izzy, Bo said when she was at the kitchen door.
Okay, now.
She looked back at him. He hadn't moved from that spot by the sink. Good night, Bo, she said.
That's cute.
Chapter 15.
Okay.
Saturday morning, Izzy stayed in bed longer than usual. It wasn't that she'd slept all that late. She was wide awake by 8. But at 9:30, she was still in bed.
Y'all, look at the front of my hair. Like, the front of my hair is getting so short. And I think it's due to, like, keeping in certain protective styles without washing it for too long. And then that, like, breakage that builds up right at the front, or that product buildup that builds up right at your root. But then also not detangling it the proper way, so then it breaking off. This is crazy. I never used to have like actual short baby hair in the front of my hair. I used to always, like, when baby hair used to become, when baby hair was becoming a big thing when I was growing up in like middle and high school. I was always like, what is baby hair? Like, I don't have hair that is super short in the front of my hair, or in the front of my head. And now I do. I still don't do my edges though, but like, yeah, no, I'm not a fan of like the actual short breakage in the front of my hair at all, because now I actually do have to gel down my hair more often, just so that it doesn't look crazy, you know? And as someone who's like a lazy natural and likes to keep one hairstyle in without having to wake up and do too much in the morning, that's not really a part of the goals or the plans. So I got to figure out what sort of drops or whatever that I could put in my hair to grow my edges back now that we aren't using the M brand anymore, because it was leading to people's hair falling out, which is actually crazy. And I don't really know how I feel about that. I would say I wasn't a long time user of products from the M brand, for real, for real. I used a few of their shampoos in the past, but they weren't shampoos that I purchased. It was actually a coworker of mine in college. She cut all her hair off, and she used to have like she was a natural hair girl, so she had a whole bunch of products. And one day she was cleaning out her room, and she was like, "Yeah, I don't have a use for any of these anymore because I chopped all my hair off. So if y'all want any of it, y'all can take it." And when I saw that Mielle, I took it because I was like, "Oh, I've never tried Mielle prior to that point." I can't believe I just said the name. uh, Other than that, I think after that, I purchased some of their like rosemary hair drops, and I was using those in the front of my hair. That's probably the only product of that M brand that I used a lot of And I purchased some other things. I purchased something for twisting my hair that I never actually got to using because I was using some other products first. I wanted to finish those before I use that. And I also purchased like an edge refresher foam situation so that if you had in protective styles, you could like quickly clean up the front so that you wouldn't have all that buildup in your hair. But I clearly never used those either. um but now that we're not using those, and that was like those drops was the one big thing that everyone was saying to grow your edges, grow the front of your hair out and all that sort of stuff. Now that we aren't using it, I'm like, well, what we using now to grow our hair out? Because I need something for my edges. And I'm wondering now if that was one of the things that led to it, or is it like what I said earlier? Is it because of just protective style staying in for too long, that product buildup, and then not uh, taking care of it in the proper way so that it won't lead to breakage? But like hearing from other people who were like avid users of products from the M brand, I'm just like, I don't want to risk it. So I haven't been using the drops, even though I still have drops. I'm not going to use their shampoo, even though I still have some more left of that, or that twisting cream. Because I'm just, as someone who's been a natural all their life and has like worked all my life to get my length, and my length isn't even like super long or where I would have hoped or dreamed for it to be at, I just can't take any risk, you know? There's too much money invested within my hair to take that risk of it falling out or whatever just because I wanted to use a product, you know? But yeah, I just had to say that real quick. Just a little update on how my hair is. Hopefully in the next year we can grow that part of my hair out. But let's get back to the book.
Staring up at the ceiling. Because the thing was, when she went downstairs, she'd have to face Beau. Maybe it hadn't been as bad as she'd thought. Maybe she hadn't actually rested her head on his chest. Maybe she hadn't enjoyed his arms around her quite so obviously. Maybe she hadn't wished. Ugh. She pulled the covers over her face and then winced. Just that small motion made her arms hurt. Maybe that was her excuse to stay in bed forever. Finally, she forced herself to get up. She had to go down to the kitchen, get coffee, pretend everything was normal. Except she and Beau had decided to work in the library this morning. Oh no. She gave herself a stern talking to once she got in the shower. Look, Isabel. It's normal that you feel like you're getting close to Beau. You're living in the same house with him, you're working closely together, you even eat dinner together. But he's obviously not interested in you. You're not at all his type. You know that.
He is
He
definitely
dates models and
interested in you,
actresses.
girl.
Remember? He's not
He
your
is
type either.
definitely
You,
interested in
unlike
you.
Priya, do not like
He
big
ain't
brawny
said it
guys.
yet, but
It's just that he's the only man you've really interacted with in person for weeks, and your silly brain has latched onto him. You need to.
and you know what? Just stop right there. I feel like, I don't know if this goes through every girl's brain, but this is definitely something that goes through my brain, especially at the beginning of like meeting a new dude, and not even on no like you liked him or whatever sort of situation at the beginning. But I feel like there's always a part where you kind of think in your head and you're going in denial of like, do I really like him, or is it this? Do I really like him? For me, it's a hair thing. Sometimes I can be jaded by folks, men who have hair. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, they're so cute, they're so fun. Oh my gosh, I think I like them. And then I have to come back to it after a few days and be like, or after a few minutes of actually looking at them and be like, they are not that cute. You do not really like them. Or is it this one thing about them that's making you think that you like them? And then you like, it's like a thing where like, I remember growing up, especially in middle school, I used to think all these different dudes were cute. And then after you get to know them, after a month or two of getting to know them, not even on like trying to be in a relationship, just like you're just being classmates or whatever, you'll be like, no, there's no way in the world I could like you. After like actually knowing your personality and stuff. And I used to be that girl in middle school. I would tell them like, yeah, no, I definitely think you're cute, but like, no, like it could never. No. You're a cool friend. You're a funny guy. And that's about it. I could not seriously date you. And I feel like that's what she's going through right now because like she's been living with this dude, or not living with him, but like staying in his place. So as a job assignment to get her job work situation done. And it's like, do I really like him? I didn't like him before I got here, and yet for some reason now I feel like I like him, but I can't like him because this is work. But at the same time, things are changing and I'm starting to notice you in different ways that I wasn't noticing you in before. So do I really like you? Or is it just because you're the only person that I've been around? You know? I feel like that's what old girl is going through. And all I could say is, girl, same. I feel you. That's really how it be, trying to figure out, like, do I really like a person? Y'all, look at this. My hands are fully extended at this length of hair. How do you do it as your hair gets longer? Like I said, this isn't even my ideal length, or like this isn't even as long as I could see my hair possibly going, or as long as I want to see my hair. And this is already mad long. Like it's gonna extend beyond my wingspan soon if I continue to keep good care of it, at least. Okay, let me press play and we'll twist this part up.
Take a step back from all this. From him. Are you sure about that, sweetheart? She heard a tiny voice from the bathtub say as she turned off the shower. Yes, I'm sure, she snapped. Oh, no. She was talking to inanimate objects again. She had to stop that. When she finally got down to the kitchen, Beau was there, sitting at the kitchen table with coffee and... Oh, are those cinnamon rolls? She asked. He grinned at her and gestured to the top of the stove. There are more over there. They might need more frosting, though. She looked at the pan on top of the stove, at the buns slathered in frosting, and laughed. I'm not sure if that's possible. He looked at her, and their eyes met. They both smiled. I was a frosting fiend when I was a kid. My mom used to tell a story. I don't remember this, but it sounds like me. That one year for my birthday, she gave other people cake and just put a huge scoop of frosting on my plate. Izzy felt so relieved. She couldn't hold back her smile. She was glad she had the excuse to put a cinnamon roll on a plate so she could turn away from Beau. She was just happy everything felt normal between them. Want to take these to the library? He asked. If so, I'll grab another one. She nodded. And I'll grab the wipes. We can't get frosting on the books after all. They worked together like normal that day, though Izzy tried her best to remember the lecture she'd given herself and not let herself get too close to Beau or think about him too much. On Sunday, their work time in the library started like it always did. Izzy pushed Beau's notebook across the table to him. He opened it,
This is the
wrote
last
for a while, then
section
typed, and kept typing
of
until the
this
timer
half
went off.
of my head, and we
Afterward,
are
though, Beau did something different.
almost an hour in.
Izzy, he started, and then stopped and looked down at the table. Yeah? She asked. Was something wrong? He looked nervous. He took a deep breath. Would you like to read something? I mean, he gestured to his laptop. This? If you don't want to, it's okay. Izzy tried not to react. Beau was clearly stressed about asking her to read his work. She didn't want to make it into an even bigger deal, but inside, her mind was one big exclamation point. I'd be happy to, she said. He nodded quickly. How about, right now? Because if I don't show you right now, I might lose my courage here, so... Izzy tried to smile as encouragingly as possible. Right now is great.
Oh.
Bo brought her
I
his
dropped a
laptop
big
and then sat
glop
back
of
down in his
conditioner
chair.
on my pants.
Okay, just that part. The part that starts with this house. It's rough, and it needs a lot more work, obviously, but I think it's time to see if I'm on the right track or not. And if not, what to do or something. Izzy wanted to reassure him, but she knew that wasn't what he needed right now. He needed actual feedback. Sounds good, she said, and started to read. This house has always been a refuge for me. Bo jumped up when she was only one sentence in. I can't sit here while you read that. I'm going outside, okay? He raced out of the library before she could say anything. Izzy looked after him for a few seconds. Then she turned back to the screen. This house has always been a refuge for me. When I was little, I would come here sometimes with both of my parents, sometimes just with my mother, to visit my grandparents. There was so much to explore in the house and the gardens. It was like I found something new to see, to experience, to play with, every time. New corners, hiding places, flowers, books. It always felt like there was a little bit of magic here. The best times were when I got to spend weekends here with my grandparents alone. They would let me roam free, occasionally coming outside to bring me more snacks or call me in for meals, sometimes just yelling my name to make sure I answered. My grandmother was always in the kitchen, baking something delicious. So I would usually stumble inside, clothes torn and dirt on my face, and sit at the kitchen table, and she would set a stack of cookies in front of me with a smile. My grandfather was always in the library. I spent hours there with him. He had shelves of children's books in the corner, just for me. He never told me when he'd added a new book to the shelves, but I would just check every time I came in, and there was almost always something new there, something I would grab, along with an old favorite or two on my way into the room. My grandfather would nod at me, and I would nod back at him, and I would feel very grown up. I would curl up in the window seat and sit there in the corner for hours as he sat at the long table or in one of the chairs in front of the fireplace, working or reading. As I got older, the house became a refuge for another reason. No one here seemed to know or care who I was or who my parents were. At home in LA, everyone knew my whole family. Photographers would take pictures of us on the street. People would call out my name or my mom's name, and I was supposed to be nice, polite, but I never wanted to be. In the neighborhood around my grandparents' house, people just knew me as their grandson. At the beaches here, no one paid attention to me at all. I loved that. But I got busier. I worked more, and I had less time to come see them. My grandmother died. My grandfather got older and sicker. I would come here sometimes to see him, but they were quick visits, not the long, relaxed, peaceful times I had before. It got harder to come after my parents' divorce, when things between my mom and me started to get strained. But that's just an excuse. I guess the truth is that it hurt to see him like that. Hurt to have to answer the same question over and over. Hurt to think of him as mortal. I think I thought I would have him forever. That's one of my many regrets. When he died,
The sound
hurt
of
to think of
this
this house
unbrushed
without him
thing
in it.
going through my hair
Even
is
after I knew he
amazing.
left it and all its contents to me,
And
I didn't come
still,
here.
the breakage
I
in the
know,
front of my
spoiled
hair.
rich guy saddled with a house he didn't know
Oh,
what to do with. Boo-hoo. Trust me, you're not thinking anything I haven't already thought myself. But I felt like the house would feel empty without him. That I would feel his absence in every room. That it would hurt even more to be here. But one day, after my whole world and everything I thought I knew changed, I had to get away. From my life, from everyone who knew me, from everything I knew. And without even
I'm
thinking
getting
about
hungry.
it, I got in the car and drove straight to this house.
I'm gonna need a snack.
As soon as I got here,
Soon.
I realized how wrong
I
I'd
can
been to stay
tell.
away. Instead of feeling my grandparents' absence here, I feel their presence. I feel him in the gardens. I feel her in the kitchen, talking to me, comforting me, and sometimes lecturing me for all the many ways I've fucked up and continue to fuck up, even though my grandmother would be horrified to hear me use that word. But they would both lecture me in the kind, loving way they always did before. The way that made me want to be a better person for them. Not that I've been particularly good at that, but I keep trying. But I especially feel him in the library.
All right, once I
nodding at me,
done, it took about an
encouraging me,
hour
smiling
to do this
at me,
side, to
helping me
fully
deal with
detangle it.
everything I don't want to deal
Now
with.
we're gonna start detangling
Helping
this
me write
other
this.
side of my
Izzy
head.
looked up. She glanced over at those chairs by the fireplace.
Let me wrap
They
this
seemed
side
old,
up. And I
worn,
do think I'm gonna take
comfortable.
a small little
She could
breaky
feel
break
approval
so I
emanating
can get a
from those
snack.
chairs, like
And
they were happy she
hold
was
up.
here.
I do think I'm gonna take a little small break so I could get a snack, or maybe not like a full snack, but just something to chew on. And then I also want to doing laundry at the same time as well, because I have a lot of places to be. Like, so I have an event tonight, and I'm gonna be out at a game the day after tomorrow then. So I need clothes, and I have not done laundry in a hot second. So I put the first load in the wash before I started this live. I'm gonna go put that in the dryer and then put a new load in the wash, so I can just like hopefully have all my clothes done, washed and dried when I'm done, or by the time I'm done with my hair. So then tomorrow I can fold and such, fold and hang things up. So I'm gonna leave y'all here only because my hands are dirty, but give me about like 3 minutes, 2-3 minutes. I'll be right back, and we'll get back to doing this hair, or detangling this hair. I'll be right back. And I'm gonna leave this too, so I'm not dragging hair all around the house. All right, y'all. Okay, I'm back. The clothes are in the dryer. There's a new load in the wash. I treated one of my white shirts because for some reason I wore this white shirt recently. Oh, I'm stairs. I wore this white shirt recently and I haven't worn it since college. But when I wore it this time, I noticed there was like a whole bunch of random stains on it, almost as if it was like coffee or something. I don't drink coffee, so I'm looking over here trying to figure out why are there all these stains on my shirt, and I haven't worn this in years. So I treated it with some stain remover. I think it was like OxyClean or something. So that it can go in the next wash. And I might double treat it. So I put some like OxyClean gel situation on it right now. But I think this side split in half like super easy. It's not the same half as this side though, which like I said doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna try to make it somewhat similar. But I use the OxyClean gel situation on it now, and I think later on, before like I actually go to put it in the wash, I'm gonna put some Tide stain remover on it as well. So just double for the trouble, and hopefully that does the job and gets those stains out. I'm pretty confident the OxyClean by itself would get it out. Just cause I use that OxyClean to get curry stain out of stuff in the past. So I know for a fact that it should definitely be able to take this stuff out. Because if you know anything about curry, you know that stuff stains, okay? It will stain your hands and your nails. So it definitely stains your clothes. But yeah, I had to treat that. So that's why it took me a little longer to get back on here. But we're back. We're starting the second side of my hair. First side took about an hour. So probably expecting the same for this second side. I once again split each side into two, and then I split each of these sections into 4, just because it helps me to detangle a little better when I'm working with smaller sections. So I'm going to split this into half going across. Cut this up here. And then split this in half going from up and down. Going long ways. Uh-oh. Use some spray. Never try to force through a knot or anything like that on dry hair. That's just asking for your hair to rip apart and be damaged for no reason. At least try. At least try first. Okay. I split this into 2. Now I'm gonna clip this part up, and then I'm gonna get into detangling this section. Y'all already know the drill. Some warm water with some conditioner in it, and then just to like get the hair rehydrated, and then we're going in with the Aussie Miracle Moist conditioner to actually detangle, which I know earlier I said I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but using it this time, I don't know if it's because I'm using this brush, I don't know, but I'm liking it so far. So far so good. That's a whole bunch of hair. But once again, this hair it hasn't had like a real thorough detangle since my last wash day, which was October. My last full wash day, because I did wash it while it was in the style, but like I said, it was in the style, so I didn't get like a full, real deal detangling. So this is a lot of shed hair. But if it's everything from October, it kind of makes sense. So I'm gonna go back to listening to this audiobook while we work through this next section.
She had to go find Beau. She suddenly felt guilty for the way she'd been thinking about his book. When she'd first gotten here, she'd assumed there was no way someone like Beau could write a good book. She'd changed her opinion of him a lot in the past few weeks. But she realized that perception of his book had lingered with her. That his writing wouldn't be good. That despite some of the things he'd said to her, he wouldn't think hard enough about his life or the world around him. She'd been wrong. She found him over by the rose garden. The rose bushes were a lot fuller than they had been when she'd first gotten here, though there weren't any blooms on them yet. He turned around when he heard her coming. "Okay, just say it," he said as she approached. "Tell me how bad it is on, like, a scale of 1 to 10. With 1 being like, I'm embarrassed to be in a room with this guy, and 10 being like, I don't know. I didn't think this scale through enough before I started talking. I don't know if 10 is actually good or even more terrible than I could ever imagine, and now I'm just still talking, so you won't say anything, aren't I?" Izzy laughed out loud. "Beau, it's good." He looked at her with narrowed eyes, and she laughed again. "Don't look at me like that. I'm serious. Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, there's stuff you need to tinker with, expand on, sure. Of course. But it grabbed me right away. It drew me in, and it made me care about the story that you're telling, which is absolutely the most important thing you want it to do. I'm really..." She was going to say she was proud of him, but that felt condescending. Who was she to be proud of him? "I'm really glad," she said instead. He looked at her hard. "You know you don't have to say all this, right? If you don't know, I'm telling you right now. I know I seem all stressed, but I want you to tell me the truth. I want to know what you really think." Izzy looked him in the eye. "I'm telling you what I really think. Haven't I done that since I've been here?" It was true, she realized. Most of the time, at work, even at home, she hid what she really thought behind the veneer of cheerful, everything's fine, happy to help, Izzy. But she wasn't like that here, with Beau. He nodded, but he still didn't look convinced. "Okay," she said. "I can give you more detailed notes on it. I'll be happy to do that. But really, I thought it wouldn't be..." She bit her lip. "I wasn't sure what to expect from your writing. But Beau, I'm telling you, it's good." He took a step closer to her. "Wait, when you said, I thought it wouldn't be, you thought it was going to be bad. Is that what you're trying to tell me? You're surprised that you like it, aren't you?" She sighed. "I was actually trying really hard not to tell you that, as a matter of fact. And it's not like I thought it was going to be bad. But the thing I am telling you, because it's true, is that it is good. You can do this. You are doing this. I'm excited to see what else you have in that notebook." She shrugged. "I don't have a lot of experience, obviously, and I don't know what Marta will think, so I don't want you to think that He brushed that aside. "I don't care what Marta thinks. I care what you think." They grinned at each other. He looked down, then back up at her. "I'd love it if you gave me those notes, actually. Tomorrow, maybe?" Izzy nodded. "Tomorrow sounds great." She turned back to the house. "Come on. Now it's your turn to celebrate a victory. There's a lot more ice cream in there and a whole lot of hot fudge." Beau caught up to her. "Ice cream before dinner? Sounds like my kind of celebration." Chapter 16. On Wednesday morning, Priya texted, "Can't wait to see you this weekend." That's right. This weekend was Priya's cousin's wedding in Santa Barbara. Izzy had totally forgotten. The past few weeks had gone so quickly. When do you get here? Where are you staying? She couldn't wait to see Priya. So much had happened in the past 3 weeks, and she couldn't believe she only had a little over a week left in California. I get in tomorrow. Dinner tomorrow night? Do I get to see that house? And Beau? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Izzy laughed at Priya's many punctuation marks and then bit her lip. She and Beau were in a good place now with work and everything, but it still felt tricky to ask him if someone, anyone, could come to the house. She knew how special this house was to him, and she also knew how he felt about his privacy. And Priya would want to go everywhere in the house and ask all sorts of questions. She wrote back, "Dinner, yes. I can pick you up from the airport, but, not sure about coming to the house or meeting Beau. I'll have to check." Priya's text came back in seconds. "So check then. I have to see this place you've been living and meet this guy." Izzy rolled her eyes. "He's not a guy. But fine, I'll ask if I can bring you up here before we have dinner." Should she really ask him, though? She didn't want Beau to think that she was violating his privacy in any way, and she really didn't want to mess up the still somewhat fragile working relationship between the two of them just to satisfy Priya's curiosity. She'd have to think about this. Izzy still hadn't decided what to do when she got to the library that afternoon. After he finished writing, Beau pushed his laptop across the table to her. She read what he'd worked on, made a bunch of notes in the margins, and pushed the laptop back to him. The first time they did this, he'd frowned at the screen when he read her notes. He had looked at her, but when he'd opened his mouth, she'd cut in before he could say anything. "No, not yet. Don't answer my questions now. Answer them in your writing. But don't do that now either. Wait until tomorrow, at least. Maybe even the next day, or sometime next week." That angry frown she remembered from her first week had returned to his face. "But you said..." She'd shaken her head. "I know what I said, but you have to give yourself some time to think about it. Sure, maybe you think my idea for a change doesn't work. Okay, that's fine. You're the one writing this, not me. But give yourself time to think about it. Come up with a better idea. This is a marathon, not a sprint, Beau." He'd looked at her for a minute, and suddenly his face relaxed. "But how am I going to argue with you about all this if I have to wait? The heat of the moment might be all gone." He was smiling. Good. She'd been worried for a minute there. "I know," she'd said. "That's the worst part. You might even agree with me." He'd laughed and given her the notebook. After he read her notes on Wednesday, he looked up at her, his eyes narrowed. "Okay, but what else?" he asked. She stopped, midway through sliding her notebook into her tote bag. "What do you mean? What else?" He set the laptop to the side. "You had this worried look on your face the whole time you were reading. I thought there must be something really wrong with it, but nothing you said is that bad. Are you holding out on me? Giving me the easy notes at the beginning so I can get used to it, and then, bam, you'll come in and tell me to rewrite the whole thing?" Izzy laughed. "No, and no. And I promise I won't tell you to rewrite the whole thing." He pushed his notebook across the table to her. "Then what is it? What's wrong? Something put that look on your face." He shook his head. "Wow, incredibly self-centered of me to assume it was my book. You do have other things in your life. Never mind." Izzy rubbed her hand back and forth on top of his notebook. "Oh, it kind of was about you, actually. Why was she so bad at hiding her emotions around Beau? She used to be so good at it. It's just that... Okay, feel free to say no to this." She still wasn't sure if she should ask, but now she had no choice. "I'm good at saying no." He looked amused. "As you're well aware." "What is it?" She swallowed. My friend Priya, I work with her. I've mentioned her, I think. She's gonna be in Santa Barbara this weekend for a wedding. She has a million cousins. And she kind of wanted to know if she could come up here and see the house and everything. She couldn't read Beau's face at all. He wasn't smiling anymore, but he didn't look mad, exactly. Just blank. It's okay, it's not a big deal. I'll just tell her, of course your friend can come here. He said it almost harshly, but then he smiled at her. You're living here, aren't you? Did he mean it? Izzy couldn't tell. Are you sure? It's okay if Beau stood up. It's fine, really. He still seemed off, but she wasn't going to push it. Okay, she said. I'll bring her by Thursday. So, on Thursday afternoon, right after she left the library, she drove down to the airport to pick up Priya. She'd left plenty of time to get through airport traffic and figure out where and how to meet her. When she pulled up to the tiny, adorable airport that didn't even have a single traffic light, she laughed out loud. She really hadn't needed all that time. After a few minutes, her phone buzzed. Just landed! Izzy got out of the car to wait for Priya. Yay, I'm here! See you soon! She couldn't believe she was going to see Priya. Suddenly, the thought of seeing someone from New York, from her real life, almost overwhelmed her. She'd been in this tiny, almost dreamlike bubble in California with Beau for the past 3 weeks. It felt strange that someone else, even someone as great as Priya, would intrude on that. She only had just over a week left in the month Marta had given her. Beau was on track, she thought, to finish his memoir, at least eventually. It wasn't as scary to him anymore, she didn't think. But she hadn't quite told him the whole truth the day before. She had been holding out on him. Everything he'd written so far was good, but it was all missing something. If he'd written about whatever had made him leave LA and come to this house in Santa Barbara and disappear from the rest of the world, he hadn't shared it with her. In fact, she was pretty sure he hadn't put it down on paper yet. It was clear he was leading up to something big, but it was vague, only hinted at. Izzy had found herself getting impatient as the days went on, waiting for him to get there. She hadn't pushed him on it, not yet, but she knew she had to in the next week before she left. She wasn't looking forward to that. Izzy! She looked up, and Priya was running toward her, rolling suitcase in one hand and her long black hair flying behind her. Priya! Priya almost smothered Izzy with her hug, but Izzy didn't care. Oh, it's so good to see you, Priya said when they finally let go of each other. It's so good to see you too, Izzy said. I feel like it's been forever. She popped the trunk of the car and reached for Priya's suitcase. I can't believe you packed everything for the wedding in this suitcase. Priya laughed. I didn't. This is only like half of it. My mom has the rest. She held up a hand. Wait. Where did this car come from? When you said you'd pick me up at the airport, I thought you meant you'd just take an Uber or something and meet me here. Oh. Izzy must not have told her this part. This is Beau's car. Priya's eyes widened. This is his car? Okay. Yet another thing we're gonna have to talk about. Izzy rolled her eyes and went around to the driver's side. Oh, stop that. It's no big deal. Izzy pulled Priya in for another hug as soon as they were both in the car. I can't believe you're here. I've missed you so much. Priya nodded. Yeah, I've missed you too, etc. But you haven't told me yet if you're taking me to the house or not, and if I'm going to get to meet him. I'm dying here. Izzy started the car. She was still nervous about this. Yes, I'm taking you to the house, she said. Beau said it was fine, but I don't know if you'll get to meet him. He may not be around. That was one way of saying that Izzy hadn't told Beau that Priya wanted to meet him. He'd seemed weird enough about the idea of Priya coming over. Izzy was pretty sure she'd been one of the only people other than Michaela, who Beau had really interacted with in the past year. Priya might be too much for him. He'd probably be hiding away in one of the off-limits rooms while she gave Priya her tour. Her very brief tour. Priya shrugged. Oh, well, I can't have everything. Though I can't believe he doesn't want to meet me. Izzy laughed. While you're obviously the center of the universe, Beau and I don't actually talk about you. We mostly talk about his memoir, since that's what I'm here for. Remember? Sure. His memoir. Oh, look at the beach. Priya stared out the passenger side window at the ocean right there along the side of the freeway. Izzy remembered when she'd driven this stretch of freeway on the way from LA to Beau's house, and how amazed she'd been at the ocean, and how nervous she'd been about her destination. It felt like a lifetime ago. Only about 15 minutes later, they drove up to the house, and Izzy pulled the car into the long driveway. We don't have a ton of time, she said, because I managed to get us dinner reservations at a great place downtown, but we have to be there in less than an hour, and it'll take some time to find parking and stuff. She'd gotten the early reservation exactly so they wouldn't have a ton of time at the house. Not that she'd ever tell Priya that. I'm just excited to really be here, Priya said. Oh, wow. A real, actual palm tree right in the front yard. Izzy laughed. There are more in the backyard, too. You'll see. She lowered her voice. I can't take you in all the rooms, though, okay? I'm just staying here, remember? Priya nodded, her eyes moving back and forth as she and Izzy walked up the path to the front door. Sure, whatever, but I'd better get to see the pool. Wow, look at that cactus. It's enormous. Izzy unlocked the front door and ushered Priya inside. They both slipped their shoes off by the door and started down the hall. Wow, that staircase? You didn't tell me about that, Priya said. Izzy laughed. Isn't it great? I go up and down it multiple times a day. I always sort of want to slide down that banister, but the tile floor would hurt too much if I fell. My room's upstairs. Let's go there now. When Izzy opened the door to her room, Priya's mouth dropped open. Okay, the pictures you sent did not show how huge this bedroom is. This is, like, bigger than most New York City apartments. And you have your own bathroom? She burst through the bathroom doors and turned in a circle. This is like a 5-star hotel kind of bathroom. And it's the famous bathtub. Does Marta know you're living in luxury? Izzy shook her head. Absolutely not. And I will murder you if you even so much as hint it to her. As far as Marta knows, Beau lives in some boring suburb and I'm in the servants' quarters. I'd like to keep it that way, please. Izzy led Priya back down the stairs and turned to take her to the kitchen. What's this room? Priya said, standing outside the doors to the library. Oh, that's off limits, Izzy said. She hadn't sent Priya pictures of the library. She hadn't even told her about it. For some reason, it felt like the library was a private thing between her and Beau. Priya let out a dramatic sigh, but thankfully didn't object. Fine, fine. You're living in an enchanted house with lots of mysterious doors, and some of them lead to magical wings, or secret gardens, or buried treasure. I get it. They walked down the long hallway to the kitchen as Priya looked intently at the art on the walls. Where are we going now? She asked. To the pool? Izzy laughed. The pool is after this, but first, I'm taking you to the kitchen. There's usually something delicious in there, and I know you're probably hungry, so... Oh, hi. Beau and Michaela were both at the kitchen table, in front of Michaela's laptop. Hi, Beau said. He was wearing jeans? She'd never seen him in anything but sweatpants before. Okay, or his swim trunks that one time, but she tried not to remember that. Hi, Izzy, Michaela said. Beau said you'd bring your friend by today. Izzy turned to Priya, who didn't even disguise the triumph on her face. Michaela, Beau, this is my friend Priya. She's another editorial assistant at TAOAT, in town for a wedding. Priya, Michaela, and Beau. Michaela and Bo stood up. Nice to meet you, Priya, they both said. Priya almost skipped across the room to shake their hands. Nice to meet you. Thanks for taking care of our Izzy so far away from home. It's been my pleasure. Bo smiled at Izzy, then turned to Priya.
Okay.
Where's the wedding? The
It's
Four
been my
Seasons,
pleasure.
Priya said. It's apparently right by the beach, though it seems like there's a lot of stuff right by the beach here, given what I saw on the drive from the airport. And the weather! It's incredible for March. There are so many flowers already blooming. Michaela smiled. March in Southern California isn't like March in New York, that's for sure. Bo looked over at Izzy, a glint in his eyes. You should make sure to take Priya outside. Show her the orchard. There's an orchard? Priya looked back and forth from Bo to Izzy. Bo laughed. That's what Izzy said too, more or less. Izzy laughed as she remembered the tour Bo had given her at the beginning. More or less, she repeated, and they grinned at each other. Michaela stepped over to the kitchen island. Priya, would you like some chocolate cake? Priya beamed at her. I would love some chocolate cake, actually. It's probably going to spoil our dinner, but I don't care. Where are we going, Izzy? Bo's eyes snapped to her. Oh, you're going out to dinner tonight? Izzy nodded. He had that weird blank look on his face again. Yeah, to a Mexican place downtown. Didn't I tell you? He shook his head. It doesn't matter. Oh my God? Everyone in the room looked at Priya. This cake is incredible. You told me about the pool and the bathtub, but not the cake. Is there just cake like this here all the time? You have to go back to New York in what, a week? How are you going to survive? Bo turned away and sat back down. Okay, maybe he'd had enough of Priya. Though, to be fair, he'd been a lot nicer to her than Izzy would have guessed. And a lot nicer than he'd been to Izzy when she'd gotten here. Speaking of the pool, she said, let's go outside. You can finish your cake as I show you the gardens and the pool. And the orchard. She smiled in Bo's direction, but he didn't look at her. She took Priya's arm and steered her firmly toward the kitchen door. See you later, Bo. Michaela.
Ooh, this is a lot of hair.
Thanks for the cake. Priya was subdued, for her, during the tour of the gardens and the pool. It wasn't until they got back to the car and were on their way down the hill that she exploded. Oh my God! Izzy grinned. Great house, isn't it? Priya let out a high-pitched noise. House? The house? You think I'm talking about the house? Yes, the house is lovely. That is not what that oh my God was for. Isabel Marlowe, when are you gonna jump that man? Have you done it already? Tell me you've already done it and you just haven't told me. Well, at least Priya had waited to say this until they were out of Bo's hearing, though her voice carried pretty far. No, I have not, and I will not, she said. Bo and I are barely even friends. Priya threw her hands up. If that man said, it's been my pleasure, about me the way he said it about you, and then smiled at me like that, we would be a lot more than friends by later that night. Priya! Well, I'm just saying. Did you see his shoulders? Izzy sighed. She should have known this would happen. This, she realized, was why she hadn't wanted Priya to meet Bo. Because she had known this would happen. You can just say all you want, but nothing like that is happening. First of all, I'm here for work. Second of all, he dates models and actresses and people like that, not people like me. Okay, well, first of all, you're not working for him. You're working with him. People who work together date all the time. And second, you're as incredible as any model, Priya said. If Bo doesn't know that, he's not worth you. Izzy squeezed Priya's hand. See,
okay.
This was why she'd missed her.
Ooh.
You're the best, she
Almost
said.
done.
But
we're in the
Priya
last big
I'm pretty
section.
sure he does know it.
I gotta split this last big section into 4 sections, though.
Chapter 17.
Jeez.
Izzy got home from dinner late that night and poked her head into the TV room to see if Beau was there, but it was empty. She usually ran into him in the kitchen during the day, either in the morning or at lunchtime. But on Friday, she didn't see him at all until she met him in the library. "Hi." She handed him his notebook when she sat down. "Hi," he said, without quite looking at her. There was no real preamble that day. He just took the notebook, flipped it open, and started writing. A while later, he switched to his laptop. She'd stopped setting the timer. He didn't need it anymore. And she scribbled in her notebook. She was just jotting down some more of that idea. That's all. When he finished, he pushed the laptop across the table to Izzy. "When I was 16, my dad finally won an Oscar. I say finally because that had been his goal for years. He'd been an acclaimed screenwriter since I was a kid. He'd written a ton of movies, and some of his movies had gone on to win Best Picture. Sometimes he was also nominated for the screenplay, but he would get so resentful when he wasn't. Apparently, the movie just wrote itself," he would grumble every time. My mom always looked at him when he said that. I remember that now, but she never responded. The night he won, my parents left together for the ceremony. My dad a little frumpy, as usual. My mom glamorous, also, as usual. She often tried to hide, or at least minimize, how much taller she was than my dad. But that night, she wore these super high heels. I overheard her on the phone with one of her friends that day, when she was getting dressed. "You're right," she said. "Flats just don't work with this dress. Fine, I'm going to do it." When they got home that night, I expected them to be gleeful, celebratory, triumphant. But instead they were quiet, angry, as they walked in the door. "Stop putting words in my mouth," I heard my mom say in a low tone. I've always had much better hearing than my parents thought. "I didn't say that." "You didn't say anything," my dad said. "Do you know how bad that made me look?" They both stopped when they saw me, sitting there waiting for them. My mom smiled at me, but I could tell the smile was fake. I could feel the tension between them. "Congratulations, Dad," I said. I was thrilled for my dad. I knew how much he'd wanted to win. He gave me a hug and grinned up at me. "Thanks, Beau," he said. "You were watching?" I nodded. Of course I was watching. I made everyone shush at the party when your category came up. We all cheered for you. He turned to look at my mom, who had kicked off her shoes and was taking the pins out of her hair. "Glad someone in this family is happy for me," he said. My mom looked up at that, a weary expression on her face. "Don't," was all she said. She walked over to me, ran her hand over my hair, and kissed me on the forehead. I was just barely taller than her then. "Glad you were watching, Beau," she said. She smiled at me and then turned, not quite looking at my dad. "I'm going upstairs to get this dress off and take a hot bath." She kissed me again. "Good night." I waited until I was sure she was all the way upstairs. "What's wrong with Mom?" I asked my father. He shrugged and dropped his bow tie on the table. "Your mother can be bitter, jealous," he said. "I forgot to thank her up there on stage. But I had to thank all of the industry people, everyone having to do with the movie. She knows that. And then they started playing me off and I just ran out of time. She should understand that. I thanked her after in the press conference, and you too, of course. It's no big deal. She knows how important she is to me. But I don't think it's about that. I think it's just hard for her to see my success, especially since she failed at her own career. It's sad, really."
Okay.
He'd said things like this to me before, so I nodded. But I wasn't sad for her. I was mad that she'd ruined this night for my dad for her own petty reasons. He sat down on the couch next to me and sighed. "That sucks, Dad. I'm sorry," I said. "I'm really excited for you, though. Let me see the statue." It was still in his hand, and he looked at it for a moment before he passed it over to me. "I've wanted this for so long." He traced his finger over his name engraved on the bottom. I was angry at my mom for weeks after that, for how deflated my dad was that night, for letting her own bitterness upstage his victory, for not being happy for him in the way I knew, or I thought I knew she should be. To be honest, I was angry at her for years. Now I'm just angry at myself. When Izzy finished reading, she started again from the beginning, read it through once more, and thought for a while. Finally, she typed her notes into the document and pushed the laptop back to Beau. Instead of looking at the screen, though, he looked at her. Why are you frowning like that? This time it is about what I wrote, I can tell. What's wrong with it? She shook her head. What's wrong with it? Is the wrong question. But you knew I was going to say that, didn't you? She smiled at Beau, but he didn't smile back. Okay, pretend I asked the right question, whatever it is. I'm not in the mood to play guessing games right now. What's the problem? Izzy tried to stay calm. That was her job, remember? She gestured to the laptop. I give you my notes right there. It might make more sense for you to read them. Beau pushed the laptop to the side. I don't want to read them. I want you to tell me what's wrong with it.
Oh, it's getting
Okay.
spicy.
She was finally going to have to do this. Fine. Like I said, it's not that there's something wrong with it. It's that you're skipping things. Why are you angry at yourself? What was behind the undercurrents that night? There's a lot missing here. Maybe it's a stylistic choice. Maybe you're just building up to it. She didn't think that's what it was, though. You sound like you're talking around something key, both to you and to the story. But the reader doesn't know what it is, and it's confusing. We can tell your hero worship of your dad wasn't warranted. Why? Maybe you're planning to get there, but you keep dropping these hints without actually saying it. Why don't you tell us what you're really trying to say? His face shuddered. He closed the laptop, picked it up along with his notebook, the one he always gave her before he left the library, and stood up. Thanks for your expertise. He had that nasty tone in his voice again. Why had he pushed her to say all this if he was going to get mad? If he wasn't even going to listen to her? She swung around in her chair and kept talking as he walked to the door. If you're going to write a memoir, Beau, you need to either write the hard things or ignore them completely. You can't just dance around them like you're doing. You could have written a very different book. I think you and I both know you intended to write a very different book. He stopped walking. He didn't turn around, but she kept going. You could have taken the easy way out, but you didn't want to. So if you, Beau Towers, are going to write this book, you have to write about the stuff that hurts to write about. Look, I get that it's hard to write about all this, all of what you've shown me, and all of what you haven't even tried to write. Believe me, I get that. But he spun around to face her. Do you? How exactly do you get that? How would you possibly get that? Because from where I'm sitting, you're just merrily tearing my work to shreds, ordering me to tell you all my hardest, worst, most difficult secrets, making cheerful little notes about how I need to tell more and be more honest. And then you smile and go back to your own boring little life where nothing bad or hard has ever happened to you.
Ooh.
You're not even a writer. You don't know how this
Oh.
feels, and you certainly don't know how to do it yourself. So tell me,
Disrespectful.
Izzy, how do you get how hard this is as you sit across the table from me while I do some of the hardest work I've ever done and you fuck around on your phone?
Language.
Izzy stared at Beau as he spat those words out at her.
It's not nice.
Every word, every sentence was worse than the one before. After a few seconds of silence, while they stared at each other, she stood up. Have you ever stopped to think that you don't know a single thing about me? She asked. Of course you wouldn't. I was right about you. You are a spoiled, selfish asshole who doesn't think or care about anyone else. And then she pushed past him and out the door. She ran up the stairs to her bedroom and then shook her head. She couldn't be here. She couldn't be in this house for one more second. She spun around in a circle to find her tote bag, grabbed it from the chair by the window, and dug inside to make sure the keys were there. She ran back down the hall, down the stairs, and out the front door. Right before she shut the door, she heard Beau call out her name. It just made her run faster, to get away from him, from his house, from what he said, from her stupidity in trusting him, thinking they were friends. She got in the car and drove away fast before he could come outside and stop her. She turned down the hill and drove without any destination in mind. All she wanted was to get away. Eventually, she ended up at the beach. It was the only place she could think of to go. Luckily, on a gray, drizzly, depressing day like today, not a lot of people were there. She walked along the water for a while, and finally sat down in a sheltered nook in the sand. She stared out at the horizon where the gray sky met the gray water. Then she dropped her face into her hands. She couldn't believe he'd said all that. She couldn't believe he would hit her exactly where it hurt in just that way. She couldn't believe she'd let him in, let him get close enough to her to hurt her. If he had done that 3 weeks ago, if he'd talked to her like that the first time in the kitchen, she wouldn't have cared. She would have smacked it away in her mind. It wouldn't have touched her at all.
Feel
he didn't know her then.
the
She didn't know him
knots.
Then she didn't care about him. Why had she let him in? Why had she thought they were friends? Why had she let herself relax around him, care about him? Why had she given him the power to hurt her? And why had she let Priya's stupid little fantasies about Beau get in her head? Over the past few weeks, she'd started to remember why she'd wanted to do all this in the first place. Publishing, editing, writing. She'd fallen in love with books again. Stayed up late reading books she'd taken from the library. Been inspired by her work with Beau. She'd almost decided to stay at TAOAT after she got back to New York. Keep fighting for that promotion. Start writing again. For real. Writing. The dream she'd almost given up had felt possible again. And in just a handful of seconds, Beau had made all that hope, all those dreams, feel like ashes in her hands. She obviously couldn't work with him anymore. Not after today. She was sure he didn't want that either. Whatever. It didn't matter. She was supposed to go back to New York in a week anyway. She just moved that up. She could go to Priya's hotel, crash with her for the rest of the weekend, and then fly back to New York with her after the wedding. Marta wouldn't care if she got back a few days early, as long as Beau eventually turned something in. But would he? She had no idea. If he didn't, she was sure Marta would blame her for it, and Gavin would gloat. But there was nothing she could do about that. This was who Beau really was. She should have known that. She had known that. Then why was she so sad about this?
Because you like him, girl. You got feelings.
She thought lots of things, hadn't she? None of them had ended up being true. She sat there for a while as the tears dropped from her eyes onto the sand. She told herself at the beginning that if she left California without something to show for her trip, that would be it for her publishing career and her dream of writing. This had been a test. If she failed it, she'd give up, go do something else with her life. This wasn't meant to be. Okay, she'd failed. That was her sign. It was time to quit her job, figure out something else to do with her life, find a new dream. She tried to accept that, to think about what was next. She thought she'd feel relieved when she finally made that decision. But instead, her whole body, her whole self, recoiled against it. She wasn't ready to give up. For the past few weeks, as she'd worked with Beau, as she'd worked on her own writing, she'd felt inspired, fulfilled, excited about the future. She didn't want to let Beau Towers or Marta or anyone else take that away from her. She'd almost decided to quit writing because of Gavin. She had to stop letting other people decide her life for her. Just because Marta made her miserable, just because Beau was a jerk, that didn't mean she had to leave publishing completely. There were lots of other publishing jobs out there. What she'd wanted when she'd made this deal with herself 3 weeks ago was to know, one way or another, what she should do. And now she knew. She wasn't going to stop fighting for her dreams. Not yet.
Okay, Miss Girl. Chapter
18.
There we go.
Izzy gave herself a pep talk as she drove up the hill to the house. She would go inside, pack, and text Priya from the Uber on her way to the hotel. She wouldn't even have to see Bo. And when she got back to New York, she'd take another look at her resume and start applying for new jobs right away. But Bo was sitting on the front steps when she drove up. He stood up when he saw her, but she ignored him. She steeled herself as she turned off the car. All she had to do was get through this one encounter, and then she could get out of here and never have to see him again. She could do this. He watched her as she walked toward him. She dangled the keys from her finger, and when she got close enough, she tossed them to him. "I didn't steal it," she said. "Don't worry. I'll be gone soon." He caught the keys, but shook his head. "Izzy, I wasn't—" "Don't call me that," she said. Suddenly, she couldn't hear her nickname on his lips anymore. He stopped.
The breakage
swallowed.
is crazy.
"Isabel, I'm
My hair
sorry
is not usually this short.
for what I
in the
said in the
front.
library." Sure he was.
We're
"Great,
taking a break.
thanks. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go
These
pack."
crazy protective stuff.
He moved to the side so he wasn't in between her and the front door, but he kept talking as he followed her inside. "I know you don't believe me. I don't blame you. What I said to you, that was awful. Why would you believe me? I figured you'd want to leave now, but please, know that I didn't mean it. I didn't mean any of it. That I'm so sorry for every word of it. You've done more for me in the past month than almost anyone in my life has. And you were right. Of course you were right about everything you said about my writing, about me, about all of it. I learned that from my dad, the hit below the belt. That sounds like I'm blaming him, and I guess I am. But this is all my fault. I am so sorry for everything." Her steps slowed as she walked down the hall toward the stairs. She hadn't expected a real apology. She thought, if he apologized at all, it would be one of those "sorry if you were offended" kind of apologies. Or like one of those apologies toddlers gave when forced to do so, just to get it over with. The single word, "sorry," like he'd left on her tray that first night, so everything could go back to normal, be the same as before. She knew she could never be the same as before.
All right.
She put her hand on the banister, ready to go upstairs.
Almost there.
He started talking again. "I want to explain, but I'm sure you don't want to hear it. You were right. I've been writing around all the hard stuff." She stopped walking. "For weeks, that's all I've been doing. It wasn't even that I didn't want to share it with you. I didn't want to put it on paper, to face it, to make myself deal with it. I tried to ignore that, to pretend I could keep just going on as I was, that eventually it would just, poof, by magic, show up in the book and I would keep not having to deal with it. But then you called me on it, and you were right. And the thought of having to write about all of that terrified me. And so I said those horrible things to you, things I never should have said. And I'm so sorry."
I have a feeling I'm about
She
to
turned
struggle
"You hurt me," she said.
with this section.
"I trusted you. And you hurt me."
Because it's pretty
He didn't look away from her.
thick.
"I know,"
I
he
feel
said.
like I should split it.
"I don't expect you to forgive
I'm
me."
going to split it. This
He
has to
set the
be
keys
split.
that she'd thrown at him, down on the table by the front door. "Take the car. Go wherever you need to. Just let Michaela know where it is. Someone will come get it whenever you don't need it anymore. I won't..." He swallowed. "If you were worried about this, I will only say great things to Marta about you and the work you did with me. Great things that are all true. You're really good at this. I hope you know that. You struck a nerve, only because what you said was totally true, and you were right. I wish I don't know, talked to you, told you everything, asked you for advice on how to write about it. But instead, He shook his head. "Anyway, that's all I wanted to say." He started to walk away, then stopped. "Wait, no. I wanted to say one more thing. Thank you for trying so hard with me. You didn't have to do that. It made a real difference to me, and I didn't say that enough. Or ever, probably. Thank you. He turned and walked toward the back of the house. After a moment, Izzy went upstairs. She sat on the bed and pulled her knees up to her chest. She thought about what Beau said in the hallway. When she'd seen him sitting there waiting for her, she'd assumed he was either waiting to kick her out of the house, or that he'd try to laugh it off, brush it aside, try to convince her to stay there. But instead, he'd apologized, really apologized for everything he'd said. And he hadn't tried to convince her of anything other than how sorry he was and how grateful he was to her. She should pack. She should pull her suitcase out from under the bed right now, roll up the clothes that were in the dresser drawers and piled on the chair, stuff all her toiletries into plastic bags, shake all the sand out of this cardigan so she could wear it on the plane, text Priya. But instead, she just sat there and thought about Beau's apology, about what she decided on the beach, about how the past 3 weeks had made her like Beau and trust him. She wanted to know, really know, if he'd been worthy of her trust. Finally, she walked back downstairs and into the kitchen. Somehow she knew she'd find Beau there. He was sitting at the table, his notebook in front of him, staring out the window. He turned when she walked in. Was she doing the right thing here? She was about to find out. Isabel, I thought you said you wish you'd explained everything to me, she said. Okay then. She sat down across from him. Explain. He looked at her. You don't have to let me explain. She nodded. I know I don't. She was doing this for herself, not for Beau. She wanted to know if she'd been wrong to trust him, to care about him. She wanted to know if she'd been wrong to trust herself. And selfishly, she wanted to leave Santa Barbara and this house with good memories. To remember this as the place where she'd started to write again, to believe in herself again. He let out a breath. Okay. He closed his eyes for a second. Okay. About a year after that Oscar night, my parents split up. They'd had a lot of fights like that before that night, but then a lot more afterward. With my dad loud and pointed, my mom silent. I never thought they'd actually get a divorce, though. They'd been fighting like that for years. It just felt like that's how their relationship was. And then my dad took me out to dinner one night and told me they were splitting up. I should have expected it, but I didn't. It felt like it came out of nowhere. He said it was because my mom was bitter, angry at him for all his success. He told me she'd turned to another man, that he'd had to file for divorce because of that. He looked down at his folded hands, and I believed all of it. She didn't... This sounds like I'm blaming her. I'm not, but she didn't say anything to me about it for a while. I'm pretty sure now that she didn't even know he'd told me. And then when she did talk to me about it, he'd already been telling me all those lies about her for a while. When she moved out, she just said that she loved me very much and that she would always be there for me, no matter what. He stared down at the table for a while before he started talking again. The divorce was really nasty, he said quietly. They fought over money a lot. My dad ranted about my mom to me all the time, and I took his side. My mom and I had always been close, but somehow, he sighed. That's when you said in there that I was originally going to write a very different kind of book. That's what I'd planned to write. What I'd started writing. A vindication of my dad, who, yes, I had hero worship for, parroting back all the stories he told me about my mom, defending him against all the people who criticized him and his work, all that. When he died, some of the stuff I read about him, some of the stuff I heard people say, made me furious. I wanted to tell the world what a great writer he was, what a great person he was. He stood up. Izzy thought for a second he wasn't going to finish. Do you want some water? He asked. Izzy nodded. She wasn't particularly thirsty, but it seemed like he needed something to do. He grabbed 2 glasses and poured them water from the tap. He started talking again almost as soon as he sat back down. Like I said, like I'm sure you know, he died 2 years ago. I kind of lost it for a while when he died. You probably know that too. She nodded. He looked down at his hands. The worst thing I did, the thing I'll feel terrible about forever, is what I did and said to my mom when she came to his funeral. She told me she came for me, and it infuriated me. I was just so mad at the world then. And I was really mad at her. I blamed her for him dying. I know it doesn't make sense, but I didn't make a lot of sense then. And so when she told me that, I said... He stopped and looked down for a few seconds. I said such awful things to her. Like I did to you in the library, except so much worse. I told her this was all her fault, that she was brainless, talentless, a leech on him. I repeated some of those things my dad said about her over the years. He was silent for a moment. I'll never forget the look on her face when I said all of that. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I see it. Izzy tried not to react to anything he said, to just listen. Not too long after that, an agent approached me about writing a book. I jumped at the idea. I haven't really had an acting career in years, and I wanted to write. I'd always sort of thought I'd turn to screenwriting eventually, like him, you know? He laughed quietly, but there was a note in his laughter she didn't like. It was that same mean laugh from the first week. Don't, she said. He looked at her. Don't laugh like that. That's not... I don't like it when you do that. That sounded so silly, so pointless to say, but he nodded like he understood what she meant. I don't like it either. I don't like me when I do that. He folded his hands together. She could see his nails biting into his skin. A little over a year ago, I was going through some of his papers. Partly because it had been almost a year since he died, and it was time to clean out the house. And partly to do some research for the book. I found the boxes full of drafts of all the screenplays he'd written. I started to flip through them, just, to see how his work had changed from draft to draft. And that's when I realized that my mom had done the bulk of the writing of them. All of them. She looked up at him, but he was still staring at his hands. How did you... Her handwriting, he said. It was all over them. He would draft something, and on the sides, or at the back, often both, she'd make extensive, lengthy, huge changes. Not just little edits, but entire scenes, storylines, character motivations. And then I'd flip to the next draft, and there it would all be neatly typed up with his name on the title page. It was like that for everything. I have no idea why he kept them all, other than he had such a big ego, he never thought anyone would know that the handwriting wasn't his. But I knew. I went through them all in one long, terrible night. Read them all, just to see, to make sure, to confirm that it was all true. That one that won the Oscar? God, that one was basically completely hers. And he didn't even fucking thank her. And then I said, no wonder he felt so terrible. No wonder this book was so hard for him to write. She thought back to how, when she'd first gotten here, she demanded he tell her what his struggles had been with the book, and winced. Of course he couldn't have told her any of this then. He got up again, opened the tin on the counter, took out 2 lemon bars and put them on plates. He came back to the table and pushed one across the table to her.
All right.
Isabel.
Last section.
I can't describe to you how I felt that night.
And
that night and most days since then. I guess
it's been about...
If I'm really going to write this book, I guess I'm going to have to describe it at some point. But as you saw, I've done my best to avoid doing that. He laughed. But she didn't think he really found any of this funny. I hated myself so much. I still do, I guess. At first, I thought there was no way I could write a book, knowing what I know now, knowing who he is and who I am. Same kind of monster he was. Oh, you're not? He held up a hand to stop her. And then I decided I did want to write this book. That I wanted to tell the world what kind of person my dad really was. And what kind of person my mom really is. Admit how wrong I was about everything. I thought I could do it, but it's really... He swallowed. It's really hard. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. He stared down at the lemon bar on the table. Izzy didn't know what to say to him, but she wanted to say something, to do something. So he knew she saw what he was going through, that she appreciated him telling her, that she cared. She slid her hand across the table and put it on top of his.
Oh.
He looked at her and smiled just a little bit. He turned his hand over and squeezed hers.
Okay.
And then let go. He got up again, looked at the table, and then sat back down. That was the night, or rather, the morning. I left LA and came here. I had to get out of there. I packed a weekend bag of just whatever I could throw into it and drove straight here. I meant to just stay for a weekend, and, well, that was well over a year ago. She had a lot of questions she wanted to ask him, but one main one. What did your mom say when you talked to her? He turned away, but then, with clear effort, turned back to her. I haven't talked to her. She started to say something, but he shook his head. I know, there's nothing you can say to me that I haven't already thought, trust me. I was going to call her right away. I read all that stuff late at night. I drove here at the crack of dawn. I was going to call her later that day, apologize, talk to her about it all. But what was I going to say to her? What could I say to her? Sorry for what I said at the funeral. That sounds so inadequate. He sighed. I feel so guilty about believing him, abandoning her, about what I said to her. I just wish I could tell him how mad I am at him for doing this to her and to me. But I can't. But I also can't blame him forever for what an asshole I am. He looked out the window and she just waited. Finally, he turned back to her. Every day I meant to call her, and every day I told myself I'd do it the next day. Once I hired Michaela and we started making plans for a foundation to do some good with the money I inherited from him, I told myself I'd call her when that was done. A foundation. That's what Michaela was doing here. That made sense now. He went on. Then, after you got here, I decided I'd call her once I had a draft. Maybe I'm just procrastinating. I mean, I know I am. It's just, I don't know how to do this. She looked up at him. Are you, I know we've talked about this stuff a little, but have you thought about therapy? He looked away from her. I had someone in LA who I went to on and off for years. After that car accident and then the divorce and stuff, I keep thinking about calling him, but it felt easier not to. She waited until he looked at her. I know, he said, you're right. You don't have to say it. He broke off a piece of lemon bar, but didn't pick it up. Anyway, that's what I left out. Most of it, anyway. I haven't really told this to anyone. I can't believe I thought I could write about this. It was so hard just to tell you, and I like you. How did I ever think I could tell the whole world? The notebook was still in the middle of the table. She pushed it toward him. You can. You will. He shook his head, but she kept talking. Write down everything you just told me. It's gonna be rough, but you can do this. We can work on it together after you've gotten it all down. He put his hand on top of the notebook and looked at her. We? Does this mean you're staying? Yeah, she said. I guess it does. She hadn't known she made the decision to stay until this moment. Isabel, you don't... She cut him off. I know I don't have to. He let out a breath. Thank you. I'm really glad. He picked up the notebook and tucked it under his arm. And I know I've already said this, but I'm sorry, again, about what I said earlier about you. That's not how I really feel at all. I'm so sorry I hurt you. Despite everything, she believed him. Okay, she said. I accept your apology. You don't have to say it again. She stood up and looked him in the eye. But Beau, don't ever do that to me again. He looked back at her. I won't, he said. I promise. Chapter 19.
All right now.
When Izzy came downstairs the next morning to get coffee, Beau was in the kitchen.
Okay, y'all. So it has been a very long time. It has been over 2 hours. It took an hour to do this right side of my head and maybe like an hour and 10, hour and 15 or whatever to do the right side of my head. But everything is now thoroughly detangled. And I always say, I know this part of wash day takes forever, but I always appreciate the fact that I go through and detangle at the very beginning, because just a little rundown of how I do my wash days. I do wash in these sections. It helps everything go by a little faster, and I'm able to make sure I'm actually hitting my scalp. I have very thick, dense hair, and so sometimes me washing my hair myself, I notice that sometimes my scalp doesn't actually get cleaned, or I don't feel the water on my scalp, or whatever the case may be. And then also my hair would get like retangled. Even if I detangle it and I try to do like wash my hair all in one big section, it would get retangled through the shampooing process and all that. And now wash day is multiplied. So washing in these sections helps me to get to my scalp, and then I just massage the shampoo in, so I'm actually able to thoroughly clean. And then for a conditioner, I will actually open up each twist, comb through with the conditioner, and twist it back up. Now, the good thing with detangling at the very beginning is the fact that my hair is now already detangled. So when I'm putting in the deep conditioner later, or the conditioner, whatever the case may be, later, I'm not spending as much time trying to detangle it, because it's already detangled, and since it's in these twists, it's not going to get more tangled, So let me show y'all the products I'm going to be using for wash day. I think I'm going to take y'all with me, but the time is now 5:56 and the house is alive. So I don't really want to have y'all all up in everybody's face in business, but let me show y'all what I'm gonna use, and then we'll see if I bring y'all over for actually showing y'all how I wash my hair. So I'll be right back. Okay, so like I said earlier, it has been a hot second since I have washed my hair, or thoroughly washed it without it being in a style or whatever. Last time I washed it was the top of October. I know, lazy natural, but because of that, I had like lots of creams and gels in my hair recently, and I know that I need a really good clarifying shampoo to get all of this product out that has been sitting in my hair for almost 3 whole months now. So I was looking for a really good clarifying shampoo online. I kept going back and forth trying to figure out which one would be the best one to get. I went to Beauty Master to get one of the products that I saw people suggesting on Google and TikTok. But when I got there, the price of it was like $3 or $4 extra than like the price at like Walmart or even I mean, not Sam's, but Sally's Beauty. So I was gonna just walk straight out of Beauty Master and just go to a Sally's and get the shampoo, clarifying shampoo that I was considering getting originally. And then on the way out, I actually passed by this Design Essentials Oat Protein and Henna Deep Cleansing Shampoo. And I know Design Essentials is like one of the higher tier brands, I think. I'm not sure. But I know a lot of like people who have gone through cosmetology school and things like that really love Design Essentials. And I remember when I was younger, I used Design Essentials. I don't remember what exactly it was a part of their line, but we had some products in the house. So I wanted to try it, and it was actually on a sale at the Beauty Master. It was either like 20 or 40% off. So it's like, why not try it while it is at a good price? So this is gonna be my first time trying this to hopefully clarify everything out. But everybody says Design Essentials is that girl, so hopefully this does what it's supposed to do and actually gives me a really good, clean scalp, which is what I need after all of this. And then for conditioner, I'm going to be using some of this Aunt Jackie's In Control moisturizing and softening conditioner. There's no real rhyme or reason as to why I have this. I believe this was sent to me as a sample to test out. I have no complaints. I feel like the last time I used this, the only thing is that I don't think this is like the best for detangling with this. But that's why I usually detangle prior to, so I don't really see much of that anyway. But what I didn't notice is that I didn't have that much of this. I thought I had more when I checked to make sure that I had all the products I needed for today. So just in case I do run out of this, I'll be going in with some of this L'Oreal Elvive Extraordinary Oil Rapid Reviver Deep Conditioner. Ooh, uh-oh. This is what the bottle looks like. Once again, there's no rhyme or reason as to why I'm using this. I've had this for some years now, and I was looking for an expiration date on it, but I don't see any, so I'm going to use it just in case. This was sent to me as a sample to try out as well. So once again, no rhyme or reason as to why I have this. I feel like that's why I have most of my hair products, is usually because it was sent to me to sample and send my review in, not even on like no PR, not on no have to make a video, nothing. Just, hey, try this, let us know what you think about it. So yes, these are the 3 things that I'm going to be using for wash day. And then just in case I don't come back on here, or just in case I don't take y'all to actually see wash or the rest of wash day and me styling and all of that. Since I'm going to shampoo, I'm going to deep condition, I'm going to put a plastic cap on, just one of these plastic caps on. I might put my hood dryer on just to get that heat in there. I'm not sure. It just depends on how I'm feeling. And then I'll hop in the shower to actually rinse out all the deep conditioner, and then I'll just put a clip on it, shower, do my face, skincare routine, all that sort of stuff. And then for the style this time, I'm actually going to be trying a wash and go. It's been a minute since I've tried a wash and go. I feel like my hair texture, I love my hair texture, but I feel like wash and goes don't really show it that much. I feel like it's like my curls are so tight that unless you are also in the natural hair community, you can point out like, oh yeah, her curls are popping. Sometimes it just looks like a random fro, which could be cool for some people, but for me personally, I like that definition. And then also I feel like when it comes to wash and goes, for me personally, my hair shrinks a whole lot, and I don't like the shrinkage because I've worked so hard for my length, like even still, like right now, I've worked so hard for my length, and shrinkage really does do a number on me. So I don't really do them a whole lot, but I want to try it because the girls on Instagram Threads were telling me to try it, so I will. And also because I just want to do different things with my hair. I've been in mini twists for what seems like the whole year, so I want to try something new. And this time for this wash and go, I'm only going to be using one product. I'm going to do a foam. I'm going to be using the Big Girl Crazy Sexy Curl Honey All-in-One Setting Foam by The Dew. This is not my first time using the brand The Dew. I have their Mousse Def, the blue one. I've tried that before. I feel like I've tried to do a wash and go with it, but I cannot remember if I did do that. That's like, it's been over a year and some, possibly 2 years since I did a wash and go with that, if that's what I did. But I know I used that Mousse Def like 9 months ago on a flexi rod set. I love me a good flexi rod set to get like nice wand curls. But I've never tried this one before. People say that it's good, so we're gonna see what that's given later. My little review on the Unbrush, I loved it. Honestly, truthfully, I think if I have time, I might try to go back to that store to go get a few more. Cause like I said, it was only like $1.50. And nothing broke this time, but if it's $1 something cent and this used to be like $12, I would personally want to stock up and just get a few more just in case. Let me show y'all the shrinkage. Not a shrinkage, but let me show y'all the shedded hair. There's a lot of it, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm trying to tell myself I've had this hairstyle in since October without doing a real good like detangling of it. So this is basically all the shedded hair from the neglect of 3 months. But this is my shedded hair situation from October to the end of December. It's a lot, but that's what happens when you don't do nothing to your hair for forever. I'm trying to make that my goal for this next year, is to like spend more time with my hair for real, and stop being such lazy of a natural, like washing my hair more often, moisturizing it, taking care of it, to reduce the amount of shedding, because this is crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. So yeah, let me see now. I'm gonna see what's going on downstairs. I'm gonna end this part of the live. This is just gonna be my detangling, and then maybe I'll come back on here to chit chat with y'all when I get to shampooing. I gotta do some laundry, move some things around, and then yeah, maybe we'll come back, do another live so y'all can see how I shampoo and deep condition my hair on wash day. But thank y'all for joining me. This was fun. We got to do this more often because I really do miss talking to y'all. Y'all know YouTube is my first child. YouTube is my first baby. I really do love y'all over here. I just got to take more time to edit this content for y'all so we can get back to our regularly scheduled programming. We used to post twice a month, and now y'all barely see me, and I hate that. So yeah, but let's just look at these twists one more time. Yes, this is dirty hair, so it's gonna look a little faded and all of that, but my hair feels soft, and that's what matters. It feels nice and healthy. And now I'm even thinking, sorry, I kind of like these twists just in general. Like if I just want to do some larger twist instead of always doing the small twist on my hair, like I could definitely rock these thicker twists for going to the gym and stuff like that. Just put like a little headband on and just go about my day, you know? Okay, let's keep on moving because y'all, it's 5:57 in the morning. I love y'all. thank y'all for joining me for wash night day routine of detangling. My products I use to detangle, once again, is the Aussie Miracle Moist Conditioner and just some warm water. This is all that I needed. And then, of course, I tried out the Unbrush for the first time. And I'm a fan. I'm a fan. For 4C girlies, the Unbrush is going to work for us, okay? Love y'all. See y'all in the next